You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. And folks, right now is Paris Dennard. He is head of African American outreach for the Trump campaign. Paris, you sent out a tweet today, an email that said, Charlemagne the God rips Biden for avoiding his radio show, saying he owes black people his political life. Just curious, has Donald Trump done the Breakfast Club?
I don't know if the president has been invited to the Breakfast Club.
Well, has he done any of the nationally syndicated black radio shows?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know if he has, but I certainly know that his people in his administration.
But has he? Has he? Because this obviously Biden is a candidate. I can tell you right now on this show. Well, first of all, my News One Now show and this one we've tried, and it was actually Trump's idea to do a sit down, but they haven't even done that. And so if a team Trump is talking about Biden, his comments to black media. But Trump hasn't made any effort to talk to black media. Any of these national shows, don't you think you sound pretty hypocritical? Because you haven't answered, Trump hasn't answered any of these questions from black media folks.
Well, no, I know, Roland, you've been invited to the White House to talk to the president before the State of the Union several times. And
no,
I know
twice. So, but again, in one of those meetings, Trump said that he would sit down with me and Ben Carson. I've sent multiple emails to Mercedes Schlapp, Kellyanne Conway, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, as well as Hogan Gidley. Hasn't happened. That's been 3 years.
Well, it looks like he's tying the record with President Obama. But I think at the end of the day...
No, that's actually not true. First of all, President Obama was sworn in January 2009. I interviewed President Barack Obama in January 2010. So, no, you're wrong.
I think he's tying the record with President Obama in terms of engagement with black media. But I think
Hold on. No, based upon what? Based upon what?
Based upon a whole host of people complaining for multiple years about the lack of access that was given to the black press and the black media.
No. I can tell you that's an absolute lie. Because first of all, again, 1 year in, I sat down with President Barack Obama. I know for a fact that I also helped set the interview with President Barack Obama on the Tom Joyner Morning Show. Donald Trump hasn't done any of these black media outlets. So what I'm saying is, y'all really shouldn't try to even talk about that because you have no record.
Well, actually, we do. I'm glad you brought up a record because we do have a record to run on, and that's what we're proud to do.
What record?
That's what we're going to do.
What's the record?
The record is very clear. The record of unprecedented HBCU support, the record on criminal justice reform, the record on his executive order on kidney disease and kidney health, the record on supporting school choice, which I know is something that you support, as well as HBCU support.
Let me ask you this question.
Earlier.
Let me ask you a question. You talked about record. Did the Trump administration also endorse stopping consent decrees of police departments from the Department of Justice? Yes or no?
I'm not here to speak on behalf of the Trump administration.
No, hold on, but you are. You just said the Trump administration has a record. And you're talking about that whole issue in terms of what they've done for African Americans. One of the first actions of Jeff Sessions as Attorney General was to go against the consent decree in Baltimore. In fact, a federal judge overruled him. He went against the consent decree in Chicago. Then he gave a speech before the very law enforcement groups, said they were pulling back on consent decrees because they were hurting the morale of police officers. Attorney General William Barr endorsed that. Donald Trump endorsed that. Second, you talked about the whole issue of First Step Act. Also, the Trump Department of Justice to reverse the rules of Eric Holder, saying go for the maximum sentences that you can, when Eric Holder was trying to slow down mass incarceration by saying you don't have to go for the maximum sentences. The Trump administration brought back private prisons on a federal level. Do those things count in your criminal justice plan?
Roland, you can try to give cover to Joe Biden.
No, hold on. I haven't mentioned Joe Biden. No, I haven't mentioned Joe Biden. I'm specifically talking about the Trump plan for black people. Did any of those things I just tell you happen? Yes or no?
Did any of the things that I just described happen? Let me ask you, yes or no.
Yes, but hold on. But you offered that.
The fact of the matter is that it's yes. The fact of the matter is the
hold on. Paris, I answered your question. The things that I mentioned, did they happen? Yes or no? The things that I mentioned, did they happen? Yes or no? I answered yours. Can you answer mine?
I am sure, because you are an astute journalist, that those things did happen.
Yes, they did. Okay.
But those things do not take away the fact that Joe Biden says bigoted things, like he said today, that was insulting, things that should have never been said, that Ambassador Patrick Gaspard said that he wouldn't have said even in jest. But it doesn't take away from President Trump's impressive record for the black community that any Democrat or any Republican running for the second term would love to have.
Actually, I would disagree with that one, but I got to ask you this here. Can you respond to the rollback of civil rights protections in various departments in the Trump administration? Can you respond to the Department of Labor suspending the affirmative action rules, which have been imposed by the National Urban League, Mark Morrell, imposed by Congresswoman Bonnie Coleman, even during the middle of COVID? Can you respond to any of that?
What I can respond to is the fact that the Department of Labor did a rule change that made it so that the millions of people that look like you and me that were left out of the healthcare system because of Obamacare, who still cannot afford healthcare, were given the ability to pull themselves together from geography or by industry and tap into healthcare and receive it at a more affordable price, like a big company would able to do.
Hold up, are y'all you trying to take credit for the Affordable Care Act?
No, by no means. I'm glad we got rid of the individual mandate. What I'm saying is, because of in spite of Obamacare, there were still millions of Americans that were small business owners, more specifically, that were left out of the system and still could not afford health care. Because of a rule change from the Department of Labor under the Trump administration, they made it possible for these small businesses to pull together by geography and by industry and then get access to affordable health care because they were left out and couldn't afford it even under Obamacare.
So I got to ask you, African-American uninsured rate dropped by more than a third because of the Affordable Care Act, but y'all want to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, but you have no replacement. And so how can you say you want to improve the health of African-Americans when you have no plan to do so? And if you have a plan, where is it? Because I haven't seen it.
Well, the Congress has put forth multiple plans.
Who?
But the most.
Hold on. Which Congress?
The Republican Congress, when this was taken up, I believe the last Congress had multiple plans for it.
They haven't. In fact, they've been waiting for Trump because he keeps saying he has one, but it hasn't been shown. So what's the plan?
Well, the first thing was to get rid of the individual mandate. The second thing was to make sure that as we look at COVID-19, that any Black American, any American, period, who cannot afford to go into the hospital should not use economics or socioeconomics as an excuse or a reason to not go. Because of the CARES Act supported by the president and moves by the administration, if you want to get a test, you can get a test. If you want to,
coronavirus?
Sick, yes, Roland, coronavirus.
Hold up, Paris, that's not true. There are African Americans who I know who still can't get tests. So you're actually trying to tell me right now that if any American wants a coronavirus test, they can get one right now?
I'm going to take it a step further, Roland, and help educate you and your audience. If anybody right now, especially in the Black community, needs to get a coronavirus test, they can do so. Number one. Number two, if the Trump administration has put forth tons of resources as it relates to community centers and testing. If you saw that over 100,000 through FEMA testings were sent to Detroit specifically.
Hold on, I was told we were supposed to have drive-by testing, and there's a big old news conference in the Rose Garden with Walgreens and CVS and Walmart. None of that has actually happened.
Well, Roland, what has happened is if anybody that needs to be tested or anybody who is hospitalized for COVID-19, any COVID-19 related health issues, you do not have to worry about paying for it if you cannot afford it.
So you're saying, hold on. No. I'm going to go back to what you said. So you're saying that if anybody out there who wants a COVID-19 test anywhere in the country, they can get it right now?
Yes. And
wow, that's breaking news.
That is not breaking news.
Actually, it is.
It's not. Well, I'm glad to break it to you. And I'll also break it to you and your audience that if you can't afford it, you can still go and get care for COVID-19. So let's not use economics as a reason why we don't go and get the care that we need because of the disproportionate impact of COVID-19.
You spoke about. Go ahead.
But at the end of the day, what I was brought on to talk about and to address is the bigoted comments of Joe Biden today that were insulting and disgusting. And to any free-thinking, independent-minding Black American out there, Joe Biden, a 77-year-old white man in quarantine in his basement, is telling us how we have to vote and what we need to vote. And if we dare vote outside of how he wants us to vote, he's taken away our black card. It's despicable, it's disgusting, and we should not tolerate that. It was offensive.
Were you offended when Ralph Reed said that Christians, it's their moral obligation to vote for Trump in 2020? All Christians.
I don't find that to be an offensive comment.
It's not. So if you're a Christian and then you don't support Trump, Ralph Reed literally said it's the moral obligation of all Christians to render to God and render to Trump.
Well, I don't know if you said render to God and render to Trump.
Actually, he did. It's actually in his book.
Congratulations. I didn't read his book, but I will tell you.
But he's a white conservative evangelical. So if you're criticizing Joe Biden for this, do you criticize
Pentecostal who looks at the Democrat Party and their stances on certain things morally, and I find them to be reprehensible.
So I'm asking again. If you criticize Paris, if you're criticizing Joe Biden, for this,
when you have a governor of Virginia who was proudly putting on blackface and supports infanticide and late-term abortions, and when you have when you have things like that, yes, morally, I'm against it. And so,
are you also, as a black conservative, do you stand with Donald Trump or black conservative Colin Powell when it comes to voter suppression, how it's being specifically targeted as African Americans? Have you called out Donald Trump and the Republican Party for their full embracing of voter suppression, such as what we've seen in North Carolina, where federal judges ruled there was a laser-like targeting of black voters? Have you done that?
I have.
Is that morally offensive? Is it morally offensive for Republicans to have a laser-like targeting of black voters to suppress their vote? Yes or no? I disagree that Republicans have a laser-like focus on trying to suppress the black vote. Paris, a panel of federal judges. Paris, that was in an actual ruling. Republicans in North Carolina literally asked, when are African Americans voting in early voting? They were shown that 70% voted during the first week of early voting, and they changed the rules to keep black folks from voting during that period. A federal judges ruled that there was a laser-like targeting of black voters. So are you actually, we're curious, is that morally offensive to you as a black man, as a Pentecostal black man, that white Republicans would target black voters like that in North Carolina? Yes or no?
Is it offensive to you that the Democrat Party is the party of infanticide and continues to be the leading cause of death?
Actually, you don't answer a question with a question. But I'll be more than happy to answer your question. But can you answer my question?
Roland, I am able to do that because I'm a free-thinking black man and I can do whatever I damn well please.
Okay, but if it's morally offensive, answer the question.
Freedom and opportunity.
Answer the question.
And what Joe Biden did.
Are you offended? Are you offended that Republicans in North Carolina had a laser-like targeting of black voters, trying to keep them from voting? Does that offend you?
I'm offended by the efforts right now of Democrats that are trying to make mail-in voting the thing of what we're doing, knowing that it is not only dangerous.
I'm asking you specifically.
That it is not only dangerous for black Americans, not only that there are several accounts of many blacks on the left hand side, on the left side of the political aisle who raised the problems with mail-in voting. That's why the RNC has put out protectthevote.com.
First of all, hold on. If I recall,
for us to not have a all mail-in ballot system.
I'm sorry. Hold up. Nice try trying to flip it. But the greatest example of voter fraud with the hoarding of ballots took place by Republicans in North Carolina, where the Republican Party had to admit there need to be a whole new election. That actually happened. What I still don't understand is this here. What I still don't understand is why is it? Because see, here's the deal. When you say free thinking, see, free thinking black man has the ability to call out stuff on the left or on the right, in the middle, it doesn't matter. But see, you're actually being a partisan black Republican when you're afraid to even stand with Colin Powell, who gave a speech, and the governor of North Carolina, Republican, was sitting in the audience, and he called them out for their attacks on black people voting. But you can't even say that the laser-like targeting of black voters was morally wrong.
I am not going to allow you or Joe Biden to offend me or the millions of black people like me.
I didn't offend you.
That we can think for ourselves. Yes, I'm a partisan, but I'm also a free thinker, and it's offensive for many people out there, young black Americans especially, who want to look and examine the records of both sides, look at the parties, and have a fair and open mind to determine who they want to vote for, and to do so by looking at their interests. And for them to say, and for you and for others to then question their blackness or
no, I'm sorry. First of all, hold on, stop. See, Paris, hold up. See, Paris, see right here, Paris. See, this is the mistake that you know. Because the reality, Paris, you would have never signed your CNN contract if I didn't put you on the air. And here's the deal, you know this. I never allowed anybody to call you a sellout, to call you a coon, to call you an Uncle Tom. I do not allow people to use that language to any black person, whether they are Republican or Democrat, whether they are Hotep, whether they are Christian, it does not matter. I don't allow it. So one, that's a lie. It's a lie for you to sit here and say what you just said because I don't allow it. Now, if we want to have a free black man conversation, again, as a black man, here's what I want to know. Again, when you talk about standing up for something, when you talk about what's right, you talked about there are Democrats who are pro-choice, Republicans who are pro-life. I've been highly critical of Republicans who call themselves pro-life but say nothing when black men get gunned down, who say nothing when they get shot. See, here's the whole piece. Either you're pro-life or you pro-life only in the womb. Now, see, do you want to have that conversation? I'm more than willing to have it with you, because here's what I do know. The man you're supporting has stood before and has criticized progressive district attorneys, black DAs who are trying to end mass incarceration. He has said we're going to pull back on consent decrees. And so,
it's laughable, Roland, that you are going to sit here to your audience and ignore Joe Biden's
no. See, hold up. I can't ignore it.
Incarceration and try to flip it.
No.
And put it on Donald Trump,
See, here's where you're wrong. Here's where you're wrong.
For criminal justice reform that is actually impacting thousands of black men.
Here's where you're wrong.
Reuniting with their families, our communities, and our citizens.
See, Paris, do yourself a favor. Paris, do yourself a favor and go to YouTube. Go to YouTube, Paris. Paris, do yourself a favor. Paris, do yourself a favor. Paris, do yourself a favor.
Let me inform your audience of something.
On what? What's that?
In my CNN contract, and your producers knew that, I made it very clear that I wanted a carve out for TV One and your show.
I know, I got that.
No. And so it was not because of you, because I was doing media long before your show.
Paris,
but it was out of respect. It was out of respect to you and your platform that I asked for a carve out, which didn't happen.
Paris,
but
here's the deal, Paris. Here's the deal, Paris.
Of your ego and getting fired from CNN and being jealous.
I didn't get fired from CNN.
You refused to put me back on the show.
That's not
after
true.
I had the contract, knowing full well
that's not true.
Had a carve out for your show.
No, Paris, that's not true.
Problem is,
Paris is not true.
You don't want to have the truth.
Paris is not true.
You don't want to stand up against the Democrats.
Paris,
your problem is
I've stood up against Democrats.
The script and not talk about Joe Biden tonight.
No, Paris.
That's why
Paris, here's where you're wrong. Paris, here's why you're wrong. See, Paris, let me break this down for you. You can go to YouTube and see the number of conversations we've had about Joe Biden and his criminal justice plan. We've actually done that. Hold up. Let me also help you out. Let me help you out, Paris. I have a 2-hour show. And guess what?
I'm not going to be going for 2 hours.
Paris, you're not going to be here 2 hours because I'm not going to waste that time. I have Latasha Brown from Black Voters Matter.
Let's go.
I have a panel. I have a panel of 3 people. I have a panel of 3 people who we're going to be discussing all of that. So trust me, you don't program the show. But I will say this here: if you are going to dare to criticize Joe Biden for not doing black media, your boss has done. I'm sorry, it's on your email. In the email you sent out. Your boss hasn't done black media. Your boss hasn't. Your boss hasn't consented. Your boss has.
The Trump campaign. When we launched Black Voices for Trump, we made a significant effort and with money, quite frankly, to have paid.
No. That's not what I asked. Has Donald Trump? No. Answer the question. Did Donald Trump sit down with Tom Joyner before he retired? Has Donald Trump talked to Steve Harvey, D.L. Hughley, Erica Campbell, Ricky Smiley, Joe Madison? Has Donald Trump talked to any of them?
Yes. The answer is yes. And when he did meet with Steve Harvey,
No. That's not what I just told you.
Viciously,
has Donald Trump done an interview with Steve Harvey on his radio show? Yes or no?
No, but he has met with Steve Harvey.
That's not what I asked. I asked you, has Donald Trump done interviews on the air with Steve Harvey, Tom Joyner before he retired, Ricky Smiley, D.O. Hughley, Joe Madison, Erica Campbell, Dee Dee, all the nationally black syndicated radio shows? Has he done any of them?
No, but he has met with black journalists.
Okay, gotcha.
On a local level.
Oh, so so he won't talk to any of these nationally syndicated radio shows, which actually are the largest reaching black audiences. He hasn't done any of those, right?
He hasn't done it yet.
Okay. Oh, but he will?
He hasn't done it yet.
Will he?
Well, he's not afraid.
No, but will he?
I can't speak for the campaign, but
so how about this here? Why is it that in 3 years Donald Trump hasn't bothered to even speak to the National Urban League or the NAACP? He's been invited.
You see, that's the problem.
No, I just asked the question. I'm asking you the question. Why hasn't Donald Trump? President?
Stop talking and let somebody respond.
Why hasn't he done it?
The answer is just because he doesn't go to a convention doesn't mean that he's not speaking with and working with the Urban League. I would like to inform
that's not what
you
I
and
asked.
the audience.
First of all,
Roland, that's the old tired way of thinking.
No, it's it's not.
A 15-minute speech.
George W. Bush spoke to the Urban League 5 times in 8 years.
I was responsible for him going to the NAACP with Bruce Gordon. So when it comes down to giving a 5 to 10 minute speech or actually having real policy and working together, that's what this administration has been doing from day one. Reaching out, working with the National Action Network, the National Urban League, the NAACP, working with the National Bankers Association, which is all of our black-owned banks. This is what this administration is doing behind the scenes, because they won't give credit for it, but it's fine. But they are working long before COVID-19, but during COVID-19 and before, through the Opportunity Revitalization Council and other leaders within the administration and the cabinet. That is how you get things done for the community. So, Roland, if you want somebody to give a 10-minute speech, congratulations.
No, actually, it's not 10-minute speech.
This administration
actually, it's not 10-minute speech. But again,
I outline. Continue to give cover to Joe Biden and his bigoted comments. I want to know. I want to know what Bob Johnson said, and he said he should spend the rest of his campaign apologizing to every black person he meets because he represents the arrogant, out-of-touch attitude of paternalistic white candidates who have the audacity to tell black people, the descendants of slaves, that they are not black unless they vote for him.
And I'll tell you what also was arrogant is when you have somebody who sits here and wants to tout, first of all, who calls the first black president incompetent, somebody who stands here and talks about criminal justice reform, but does not, but I'm not done, but does not want to own up to the fact that he has chosen not to stand up for black folks and brown folks in these cities when it comes to these police departments, who has given law enforcement cover. That's what he has done. A Department of Justice that has done nothing when it comes to voter suppression, that stands on the side of those who want to keep folks from voting. When the Obama Department of Justice stood with the black and brown people in Texas when it came to their voter ID, Trump wins and they completely go to the other side and stand with the folks who want, even though 5 federal judges said that voter ID in Texas was discriminatory. So if we see, here's the deal. We can talk record, but we're going to talk about the whole record, not a little bit, because also on this show, we talk about the whole record of Joe Biden as well. Because, see, nobody gets a pass, including your guy. Paris,
No, he's our president.
No, actually, no. Let me be real clear with you. Actually, here's the deal, though. I said this here. I said this in February 2017. I said it in February. Oh, please. Please. I said it in February 2017.
That's the truth.
Here's the deal. I will never call somebody president who can't even respect the office of president. So he's Donald Trump. Paris Dennard, thanks a bunch. Now we're about to talk about it with my panel. We appreciate it. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin unfiltered video in just one moment. This is the Ceek VR headset created by Mary Spiel, the sister. We had her on the show. Black woman. She actually is the inventor of this particular headset. And so what happens is you just simply place your phone right into here, and then of course close it up, and then go to their website and then their app, and you can actually experience the comedy showcase. And so they have these headsets, these VR headsets on their site, Ceek.com, for sale. Then also they have these 4D 360-degree headphones. First of all, I love the two stuff because they're in black and gold, my frat colors. But these are awesome because for gamers, it comes with a detachable headset, and again, folks, it gives you 360-degree sound. Amazing sound. If you want to buy these, you have a promo code you can use. This is just for our followers, and it is RMVIP2020. RMVIP2020. Put that promo code in if you want to buy the headphones, buy the VR headset. You get that discount to buy it. They're amazing. So Ceek.com, RMVIP2020. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.